Okay, so when I say the word professor, what's the first thing that pops into your head? For a lot of us, it's someone standing up at a podium, right? Giving a lecture. It's a classic image. But you know what? It's only a tiny, tiny peek at the real story. The reality is so much more complex and honestly way more interesting than most of us think. So let's ask that question directly. What does a professor really do? I mean, beyond the classroom, what actually fills up their days? What are their core jobs? Because as it turns out, it's not just one job. It's a constant, high-wire balancing act between three completely different roles. So this is where the myth kind of shatters. The myth is it's all about teaching classes. But the reality? Oh, it's a three-part mission. You have teaching, for sure, but you also have research and service. These three things aren't separate. They are deeply woven together, and if you can get your head around them, you'll understand the modern university.
All right, let's dive into the first pillar, teaching. This is the one we all see. But even this is not nearly as simple as it looks. We're not just talking about lecturing at a classroom. We're talking about creating an entire ecosystem for learning.
I just love this definition. The most important word here isn't instruction, it's coordination. A professor is almost like a conductor. They're blending intellect, technology, and communication to create an environment that's, and I quote, warm, lively, and effective. That's a huge task. And this is all the stuff that happens before a single student even walks into the room. Just look at this list. You've got curriculum design, you've got e-learning management. This shows you that a professor isn't just a teacher. They're an instructional designer, a project manager, and a communications director all rolled into one. It's wild. So, if teaching is what we see, what's feeding it? Where does all that new, cutting-edge information come from? Well, that brings us to the second pillar, and this one is often the least visible: research. This is the engine room. It's what keeps knowledge from getting stale. And that is the absolute key distinction. Research turns a professor from someone who just conveys knowledge into someone who actively creates it. It's the difference between a classroom being a museum for old, dusty ideas and a laboratory for current, problem-solving ones. And the research life cycle itself, wow, it's a massive job. You have to be an entrepreneur writing grants to get money. You have to be a project manager collecting data. Then you have to be a publicist, getting your findings out to the world. Seriously, each one of these bullet points could be a full-time career. Okay, so we've got teaching, which is what they do in the classroom. We've got research, which is how they create new knowledge. The third pillar, service, is the glue that holds it all together and connects it back to the real world. This is the civic duty part of being an academic. See, service is where a professor's job really expands. They're stepping out of their own little world, the lab, the classroom, to become leaders in the institution. They are literally shaping the university's culture, its rules, and where it's headed. And in the real world, this is everything from, administrative work on committees to the deeply personal stuff, like advising students not just on their classes, but on their mental health too. It's being a mentor, a guide, a real pillar for the whole community. So when you put it all together, this is what you're looking at. It's not one job, it's three, all held in this very delicate balance: teaching, research, and service. They aren't just separate things on a to-do list. They're all interconnected pieces of one single, really complex mission. And that synergy is everything. I mean, this quote just nails it. Think about it. If you teach but you don't do research, you're just repeating old facts. If you do research but it doesn't serve the community, well, what's the point? And service without the expertise from teaching and research is just empty. They all need each other to actually mean something. But just when you think you've got it figured out, that three-part balancing act, that's not even the whole story anymore. Because the world is changing, and the demands on today's professors are evolving faster than ever, adding whole new layers of complexity to all three of those pillars. So on top of everything else we just talked about, a professor today has to be a tech wizard who can handle AI, a champion for equity and inclusion, and sometimes even a frontline support system for student mental health. The old job description, it's been completely rewritten. And what this means is that the modern professor is so much more than a subject expert now. They're expected to be a co-teacher, a policy advisor,
a technology user, a social reformer, and a motivational personality. That's an incredible number of hats to wear. So when you just step back for a second and look at this whole sprawling, complex picture, it becomes pretty clear we're talking about something way, way bigger than a normal 9 to 5. And that's really the heart of it. The sheer scope of all these responsibilities, the incredible dedication it requires, and the impact it has on society. It all lifts this role way beyond being just a profession. It really becomes a lifestyle, one that's totally grounded in these core principles of service, a constant search for truth, and a deep, powerful dedication to shaping what comes next.
Because ultimately, through that incredible mix of teaching, research, and service, a professor doesn't just pass on information. They become, in a very real way, the architects of our future generation.
So let's go all the way back to that first question I asked. When you picture a professor now, after seeing the 3 distinct, demanding, and absolutely vital lives they lead, what do you see?